G'day mate and welcome back to Factorio with me, JD. We're in the last part of our oil mini tutorial series, and this one I want to cover pipe throughput and how beacons and modules really can affect a system like this, and why we've built this a lot more spaced out than what you probably find in a normal oil build. Along with probably we should try and cover how bad pipes are for UPS. And this is why you'll see I've used a lot of undergrounds, which makes it easier for me to walk through, along with a couple of other things. So, first off, pipe throughput. So, the offshore pumps, which we covered a little bit in the very first episode, pump 1200 water per second. That's an important number. That's the maximum amount that can go through one pipe. And if you, again, I'm using max rate calculator, so you guys can see the maths easy. Per second, we're only using 140 water. For all our cracking, even our extended version, we're using 225. And for our acid, again, we're using 400. So all up, we could run all of this per second off one offshore pump. But I've used three. I've used three out here, one for cracking, one for acid, and one for the actual oil build itself. Same story with our fluids. Not that this graph is much use because just the way oil processes, but you can see we're doing 800 solid fuel per minute. We're doing about 1.1 800-ish as it goes up and down with the speed of the machines. About 800 plastic per minute as well. Oh, there you go. That's a little bit better curve. Not much, but a little bit better. Fluid scale, we're putting in 20,000 oil per minute. And it immediately drops to 15,000. We're producing about 10,000 petroleum per minute, along with 1.k of solid and 8.7-ish light oil. So obviously, as far as I'm concerned, this is a pretty good oil base. It's not mega base scale, but it's definitely got the right legs to get there. Now, as you get further and further into late game, well, actually, pumps. So pumps have a maximum throughput of 10 times what an offshore pump does. So this does 12,000 per second, compared to the offshore pump only doing 1,200 per second. So a lot higher throughput. And this is why you've seen me use pumps into tanks, right, and pumps into pipes. One, to direct flow, and two, because they have a higher throughput. So if one of these tanks happens to be full, if I've got two tanks beside one another, and you saw me in the very first episode, take two tanks, and if I right clicked, I emptied one into the other, or the second episode. If I fill that one up, and in creative mode I can fill a tank in a hurry, but then I rotate that so the pump connects the two, you can see how quickly one emptied in the other. Very, very, very fast. If I reverse the pump, same thing will happen. I can move liquids very, very fast with a pump. Same applies to pipes. If I put a pump to a pipe, I get much higher throughput than just having a plain old pipe sitting there by itself. Because pipes are... Factorio tries to emulate pipes, like real life, and have them fill up to a certain level. So if a pipe is half full and you look through the little window in the side, you'd see it's half full. Whereas you look at a full pipe, and here's a perfect example, it looks full. That one's not actually full, but it looks full. That's half the merit, right? Well, there you go. There's a water pipe. A water pipe is definitely full. Our light oil pipe also looks full. It's how Factorio pipes work. They're a little bit all over the place, and they are really, really bad for UPS, which is your updates per second, which is this number up here in the corner. At 60 speed, you're running at full game speed. If you're running at 30 speed, you're running at half game speed. And that's pretty much how those numbers run. I will do another video at some stage covering UPS in more depth, along with probably pipes in more depth. The bottom thing you need to know, and your best bet is we can turn on the debug menu and turn on this. And this is info on every single fluid box, being every single one of these pipes. And as you can see, as they bounce around, every single time they bounce around, flicker around, do something like that, that's calculations your computer has to do to simulate the game. I have mitigated the fact a little bit by putting pumps everywhere to suck tanks dry or to fill tanks up. That has somewhat helped with the system. If it was a normal oil build, you'd see these things would be bouncing around all over the place forever. If I change that to that, not really the example I wanted. But you can see there's got some blue in here, some green in here. There's liquid moving from this one to this one to this one to this one. There's messy stuff going on with pipes. So the other thing I needed to cover for this episode was beacons and modules. Now, nobody has enough beacons and modules when they choose to go up to a mega base scale to just suddenly rebuild their whole oil base with beacons and modules. Oil is generally one of those first places where beacons and modules tend to go, mainly because nobody wants to try and outpost to find 10 times the amount of oil. They prefer to use the productivity modules to get an extra 10% productivity per module. Every one of these machines takes 3 modules, so that's 30% extra productivity for a cost of minus 45% speed, because again, it'll remove 15% speed per actual module inserted. So if I fill out our oil with productivity modules, we should be able to see fairly quickly that our clear that. Our petroleum has overall, it's gone down, and it will continue to go up and down, but mainly in a downward arc. There we go. We're down to 7.6. We are also using. I needed to do well, there we go. We're also using less crude oil in for making more petroleum out, along with more heavy oil and light oil. The way to combat productivity modules, because nobody wants our machines to go slower. You know, they've gone from a crafting speed of 1 to a crafting speed of 0.55. So they're about half as fast. They are making, rather than 10, 45, and 55, they are now making, I don't know, 13, some number and some number. They're making 30% extra out of basically nothing. Out of the cost of power, pretty much. So one of the things about this build, and why there's this odd gap that you won't normally see in normal builds, is so I can put in productivity modules as soon as I've got them, and then rather than completely rebuilding oil, swap it out very, very quickly to have speed beacons. So now you can see this green bar is flying along a lot faster than what it used to, and the purple productivity bar is representing every single time I get a free lot of output out of nothing. And straight away you can see, you know, this is back up to 10k, even with the solid fuel running. This is 10, 12k. The heavy oil is also counting up very, very fast, because these went from a crafting speed of 1, don't forget, to a crafting speed of 5.5. They are 5 times faster now, with 30% extra productivity out of magic nothingness. So again, you can see our production is now up around the 40 mark. We are producing a lot more petroleum than we once were. Right. We're also producing more heavy oil and light oil, respectively. And we're also going to be consuming a lot more water. And if I bring up max rate calculator now, you'll see this is up to 700 water all by itself. Turns out I missed the power pole. So this is using a lot of water. It's also using a lot of oil. Not quite too much yet, but getting very, very close. So as you can see, heavy oil's backed up, light oil's already backed up. Petroleum's actually completely backed up. So these guys are running as fast as they can and not getting enough coal from the looks of it. So what we'll do is we'll put one of these on here to just see how far we can pull and stress the system. So next step for normally when you're building this sort of building or upgrading to a mega base is you start speed modeling and beaconing other things. Now my build is built very, very deliberately to have this gap between light oil and heavy oil cracking, and that is because a beacon fits perfectly in this gap. So I can put one there, and they're covering both the light oil and the heavy oil. And then, same as we did with the refineries, I can just run this way until I get full coverage. And run this way till I get full coverage. Now, I cannot put a beacon in here, it's just a fault with the system. I could rearrange everything to move things up one tile to get that extra one beacon in there. I honestly don't think it's worth it. And same story, I can beacon very, very quickly heavy oil. Which now means that this is going to start counting down. Yeah, 2.2, 2.1, 2. This one will also start counting down. 19, 19. Come on, pump faster. When we finish heavy oil, it will start catching up. But at the same time, if we go back to our productivity stats, we're now doing a lot more heavy oil, a lot more light oil, and stop bouncing around, a lot more petroleum. An awful lot more petroleum. And again, same story. I have these productivity modules, which will slow machines down, but they'll give us... We've got 3 slots again, so 30% out of extra productivity out of nothingness. And as you can see, after I dump them in, every single time that purple bar completes, I get another lot of 30 light oil out of nothing. At the cost of power. Power and pollution, we've got unlimited space to build unlimited amounts of solar, so power is not really an issue. So, again, same story, bring up our fluids. We're making even more light oil now. As you can see, as I started adding more and more beacons and more modules, you can see all these numbers are going up very, very steadily. Our light oil is slowly going down. But our petroleum, like 10 minutes, we could have more petroleum. We're doing 60 odd per minute. We could do with more, obviously. We always want more. So again, more productivity modules. Fill them in there. And don't forget, we're in the same footprint. We're not taking up any more space than we were previously. We are bringing in more oil. That's definitely a thing. And if we come to the last oil refinery, no, we've still got oil. We've still got water. If we go to I'll walk around oil because I've uninstalled Squeak Through. You can see we've got water. We've got everything coming to the end of the cracking without too much hassle. Oh. This one is out of heavy oil. So we're now cracking the heavy oil as fast as we're getting it. 23,000. So this is still going up. We need more light oil cracking. Put that in there. Add more beacons. More productivity modules. And if you remember our previous build up here, it already came out as long as the refineries. So actually, let's just bring it out to the full length. as long as the refinery build is. Which is out there somewhere. Put a power pole down there. Put some more productivity modules in there with some more beacons to make sure things are going as fast as possible. And now we're at a stage where our heavy oil is going down. It's bottomed out. Our light oil is now going down. And on a productivity standard, we're now doing 100,000 petroleum per minute. We're doing 10,000 heavy oil per minute, 9, 10, 8, 7, and 40,000 light oil. And if we bring up the graph, you can see on a 10-minute scale, as we added more productivity with more modules, our output, you know, it's what, 10 times, 8 times what it was before for the exact same footprint. We can now go from doing, you know, a plastic build that does a blue belt to probably 3 or 4 or 5 out of the exact same build. And again, if you want to expand it, because you can, there is nothing stopping you picking up half your refinery and tagging on the end. Except when you come out here, there's now no oil. You'll see, you know, these ones don't have fire in them because we've reached the maximum throughput of what a pipe can handle, which is about 14 refineries, 1,500 per second. I normally say 1,200. So this is at 2,300. That's the equivalent of 2 pipes worth as far as I'm concerned, because we're getting a bit over halfway. You know, these ones will fire up occasionally. By the same token, we also have 1,600 of petroleum coming out, which then means this pipe runs the risk of it can't get into the tank fast enough. So yeah, there are ways to alleviate that, and generally it is with the addition of pumps, which we'll just try to prove really quickly. Really quickly. I want there to there. And then I'm just going to remove all of that and replace it with lots of pumps. Okay, now if we look at little fire animation, we're still powering up to about here. You have oil, you have oil. Oh, I did it again. I don't have output for half of these. Yeah, we're now at a stage where we can't get our petroleum out fast enough. No, our light oil. Yeah, we just can't get light oil out fast enough. So light oil was our first bottleneck we hit. Which again, we're doing 1,300 per second. Our tanks are full. Our tanks are full. Our light oil's full. We are processing it as fast as we can. We're getting it out of the pipe as fast as we can. It's just not fast enough. As I keep scrolling over to the left, the pipes keep getting more and more full. If I put a fluid void at this end, so now we're draining things at full speed, you can now see with the addition of the pumps I put down the bottom, no, we've run into a new problem. We now have too much crude oil. Too much petroleum. With the addition of the pumps I put in down the bottom, we've now alleviated that maximum throughput problem. We then move the throughput problem from being oil into light oil, and then from light oil into petroleum. So again, having lots of pumps, if I don't get stuck on pipes, having lots of pumps to push the crude oil through, or the water, or the light oil, or the heavy oil, petroleum, whatever it happens to be. You can push things past the maximum theoretical limit by just having lots of things just pushing it a little bit further. But that will probably conclude our little oil tutorial series. You know, considering we're in basically the same footprint, we've just vastly increased tenfold, you know, what we were doing in the way of liquids total. And also the addition of having lots and lots of pumps, moving things in a much more streamlined fashion. Our graph also leveled out. So I'm going to leave it here. I hope you guys enjoyed this little 4-part mini-series, even though the last episode is a lot longer than the other ones, but it is what it is. Thoughts, comments, suggestions, all that sort of stuff down the bottom, along with what would you guys like to see for the next tutorial series, mini-series, whatever it happens to be. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, bye.